Now,
on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
6:06 here on O'Connor and Company. Thanks for tuning in to our little morning extravaganza. It's Larry O'Connor with my colleague Patrice Onwuka. Good morning, Patrice. Happy Thursday to you.
Good morning, Larry. Happy Thursday.
By the way, speaking of colleagues, we're learning that radio host and, frankly, conservative pioneer Dennis Prager suffered an accident at his home. He's got a real tough time of it with his back. I've known Dennis Prager for a while, and he's suffered from back problems almost his entire adult life. Apparently, he is hospitalized, and it's in a pretty serious situation. So if you could spare a prayer for Rabbi Prager, we would appreciate that. We hate to see that happen to anyone, certainly one of our talk radio colleagues out there, and a real great guy, too. Coming up at 6:35, Tumay Harding running for the special election out in Loudoun County. 7:05, Diana Glebova, New York Post reporter who has some insight into that extraordinary meeting between Trump and Biden yesterday at the White House. 7:35, Andy Poland, ESPN 630, will join us to preview tonight's game. 8:05, KT McFarland, and at 8:35, award-winning investigative journalist at Real Clear Politics, Susan Crabtree, the latest scuttlebutt on the Secret Service. That's all coming up. But let's get to that meeting yesterday. Truly, truly an extraordinary scene. In fact, CNN had the cameras poised outside the executive mansion, the White House, and caught a glimpse of White House staffers from the Biden administration all pouring out of their offices and assembling on the steps of the Eisenhower Old Executive Office building to catch a glimpse of this moment in history.
I were sitting here as Caitlin was on, looking at that imagery, and it's really stunning. Those are Biden staffers. They're in the EOB. Some of them are lower level, some of them perhaps a little bit higher, but they're there to watch a history moment being made that nobody standing there wanted.
No one wanted or ever thought it would happen. In fact, nobody sitting on that set at CNN wanted it either or thought it would happen. Let's be clear. James Rosen, the White House correspondent for Newsmax, took a picture of the assembled masses out in front of the West Wing, saying that he's been coming to the White House since 1999, and he has never seen more reporters at the White House stakeout position than he did yesterday as the 45th president of the United States rolled up to have a meeting in the Oval Office with the 46th president of the United States as he was now about to become the 47th president of the United States. In one picture by that fireplace in the Oval Office with Trump and Biden, you could see the 45th, 46th, and 47th president all in one shot. It's like the Trinity.
3 presidents in 2.
Yes.
It's remarkable. And you know, I'm honing in on the actual handshake that they make in front of the fire. Actually, it was funny. I was watching CNN, and they were talking about how the fire was roaring. I thought that was really weird to focus in on. But the handshake, it is President Biden who looks like he's leaning in and trying to appease or reach out to President Trump. And President Trump it's like, okay, I have the power. I'm the one who you need to bend your knee to. I thought it was such an interesting visual of what's going on here, this transfer of power.
For those of you who read into body language, that handshake, you're absolutely right, Patrice, definitely displayed Donald Trump in the alpha position. And the power position. And here's what the banter sounded like as the microphones were activated during the first part of this meeting.
Looking forward to having, like we said, a smooth transition. Do everything we can to make sure you're accommodated, what you need. And we're going to get a chance to talk about some of that today. So
good.
Welcome
Thank you
back.
very much. And thank you very much. And politics is tough, and it's many cases not a very nice world, but it is a nice world today, and I appreciate it very much. A transition that's so smooth, it'll be as smooth as it can get, and I very much appreciate that, Jim.
You're welcome. Thank you all.
Yes, and then the press pool goes nuts. All right, so there's a couple of things at play here. And boy, Biden had a huge smile on his face.
He did.
They also posed for a picture with Dr. Jill, the First Lady, and President Trump outside. It looked like it was in the Rose Garden or right on the portico outside the Rose Garden. Obviously, I think that Biden is going out of his way to present, as you just heard, a smooth transfer of power and transition here. and in a way that's his own sort of backhanded sort of smack at Trump for not participating in a smooth transfer of power after the election of 2020 for various, I believe, understandable reasons, by the way, as there were still unresolved issues with that campaign. I think there are still unresolved issues with that election. But I think other people are reading into it saying, well, see, Biden, really hates Tulsi Kamala. And he feels vindicated by Trump winning because he was pushed out of the ticket. I do think that there's some of that at play as well, Patrice.
Oh, yes. Yes.
But I just want to caution everybody as they look at this and they say, oh, look, Trump won and everyone, they're all being nice and happy because they want the transfer of power. And understand that Barack Obama went through these motions as well in 2016 going into the inauguration in 2017. And everybody was, obviously they were disappointed, but they were behaving as though they were going to have a smooth transition of power. But they weren't. Behind the scenes, with all the smiles and all the handshakes and all the posing and all of the good vibes about how, here in America we have a pure transfer of power like this that's peaceful. Behind the scenes, Barack Obama and James Clapper and John Brennan and James Comey and Vice President Biden and Susan Rice, they had instigated an investigation into Donald Trump. While Donald Trump was sitting there in the Oval Office, Barack Obama had already begun a criminal investigation into that man under the false premise that he was operating as a Russian operative. And that was all going on behind the scenes while out front everybody was smiling and happy with each other. So,
and seeming like it was okay.
I saw those images yesterday, and the only thing I could think of was what's going on behind the scenes. And I'm hoping the Trump transition team is well aware of that, too.
I'm sure they are. What I thought of is it's so interesting how the left was lied to and emotionally manipulated by everyone, including President Biden. I mean, how is it that you would be willing to stand next to a fascist, to people who your own colleagues and people that you should be correcting, calling him Hitler, but you're more than willing to stand and grin and take a picture with the most evil, dangerous man on earth and his MAGA world of neo-Nazis? I mean, President Biden lied through his teeth throughout the campaign trail about President Trump and what he said during Charlottesville and what he said about military servicemen. I mean, it's so many instances, and now he's just standing there with a grin on his face. His wife is there with a grin on her face, as though everything they did, it was just fun and games.
Yeah, that's right.
The problem is, to you as a lifelong politician, it's fun and games. To the nutcases who listen to you and go grab a gun and then go and try to assassinate your political enemy because they have been led to believe that person, President Trump, is a threat to democracy.
That's right.
And the world is going to end. You have to take some accountability and responsibility for your actions. A smile is not going to be enough. That
well said. You just spent the last 4 years telling us that this man is a direct threat to the democratic process and the Constitution, and if he wins, we'll not have another election. And now you're sitting there saying, well, we're very excited about cooperating with the transfer of power and the transition to this man who's going to end our democracy. You can't have it both ways.
You can't have
So
it both
you're
ways.
either lying right now or you were lying that entire time. But either way, Karine Jean-Pierre held a press briefing after the meeting. Jake Sullivan, the National Security Advisor, also spoke. And you'll hear what they had to say and a little bit more in just a moment as the historic meeting between President-elect Trump and President Biden occurred yesterday, and we're giving you all the details now. It's 6:15.
News is brought to you by Baird Financial.
Okay, so today, President Biden met with President-elect Trump for approximately 2 hours.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I regret to inform you that the White House Press Secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, just confirmed that Joe Biden, President of the United States, met for 2 hours with a Nazi. Outrageous. How dare he? It's a scandal.
Larry, Can you do that opening that Karine Jean-Pierre just gave? Okay, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Okay, so today,
we want to test you out. No, I want you to do it.
That's
we
how
want
you
to
want
see
me to do
how you can do it. Yes, as press secretary.
Oh,
I'm going to start the rumor mill.
I don't think I would use the same delivery. Thank you.
It's embarrassing.
Let's hear more from Karine Jean-Pierre about this meeting.
Okay, so today, President Biden met with President-elect Trump for approximately 2 hours. in the Oval Office. White House Chief of Staff Jeff Zients and incoming Chief of Staff Susie Wiles joined the meeting. It was a substantive meeting, an exchange of views. They discussed important national security and domestic policy issues facing the nation and the world. President Biden also raised important items on Congress's to-do list for the lame duck session, including funding the government and providing the disaster supplemental funding the president requested. Finally, the president reiterated what he said to the president-elect the day after the election and to the American people in a Rose Garden just last week. We will have an orderly transition and a peaceful transition of power.
Yeah, well, we'll hold you accountable for those words once we find out exactly what is happening. I don't trust them. I'm sorry. I don't trust them at all.
It's understandable.
Even beyond the investigation that went into the Trump campaign under James Comey that they all signed off on and they knew about going in just days before the inauguration back in 2017. Also, let's not forget that the Obama administration instituted a ton of last-minute executive orders.
Yes, that's right.
That then when Trump reversed them, the media acted like Trump had just unended, decades of policy and law that were only about, 5 weeks old. This is what outgoing administrations do, and it'll be fascinating to see exactly what they attempt to do behind all of the smiles and good cheer. Jake, go ahead.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, already there are lots of articles telling the Biden administration what he should do to protect abortion rights, for example, from President Trump, or all these other federal workers who are probably going to be on the cutting block as well. So, yeah, that's exactly what's going on.
Yeah, thank you. Let's Donald Trump runs for office saying we've got to clean up Washington. We've got to streamline things. We got to get rid of redundancy. And yes, that means that people might lose their jobs and we're going to eliminate departments. And he wins overwhelmingly on that message, and now Biden's going to protect all of those people and protect all of those things from being done. By the way, I also found it extraordinary that over Joe Biden's shoulder during this image in the Oval Office was a bust of Robert F. Kennedy, who has always been sort of an icon for Joe Biden. Yeah, so there's Robert Kennedy smiling over Joe Biden as the peaceful transfer of power is initiated in the White House. And it wouldn't have happened, many would argue, without Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
That's right.
Jumping on board with Donald Trump. Yeah. And he only did that because Joe Biden and the authoritarian Democrats would not allow a free and democratic process in a primary this year so that Joe Biden could be challenged. And boy, it's an amazing turn of events. Jake Sullivan, the national security advisor, also in the press briefing room, was asked specifically about the national security situation for the incoming president.
Yeah, I know you can't speak to what happened in the meeting earlier. We'll ask Karine about that. But 8 years ago, then President Obama explicitly warned incoming President Donald Trump about the urgent threat posed by North Korea. He said it was the most urgent national security threat the U.S. was facing at the time. What would you communicate to your national security advisor peer who's going to be following you in this job? What is the most urgent national security threat facing the United States today as Donald Trump prepares to take office?
Well, I would say two things in answer to that question. The first is that if you look out at a strategic level, the competition with the People's Republic of China is going to be defining for what the world looks like over the course of the next 10, 20, and 30 years.
Now, he's not wrong, but I find it fascinating that he raised China as the number one national security threat when Kamala Harris, who we're told is part of the national security team and really has been involved in every single decision going on over the last 3.5 years, when Kamala Harris was asked that exact same question in her 60 Minutes interview, she said Iran was the number one national security threat.
They weren't on the
world
same
stage.
Page, I guess.
They
I mean, that
sure
tells you a
weren't.
lot about their administration.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, reporter for the New York Post, Diana Glebova, she got an exclusive with Donald Trump after this meeting. Trump actually told her quite a bit about what happened, and we'll speak with her. She's going to join us at 7:05. But this really stuck out to me. Trump said that he asked Joe Biden about his views about the international stage and specifically about the Middle East. And Trump said, and I'm quoting now, "We talked very much about the Middle East. I wanted to know his views and on where we are and what he thinks, and he gave them to me, and he was very gracious." But I found that interesting that he specifically engaged Biden on the Middle East and, by the way, on Ukraine, too. According to the article, the president-elect added that he and Biden discussed two issues on which they have differed in the past: the war in Ukraine, which Trump has promised to end almost immediately upon taking office, and the ongoing war in the Middle East. So obviously foreign policy and national security very much on President-elect Trump's mind when meeting with Joe Biden.
Maybe he's going to say, well, whatever Biden did, let me do the opposite.
Yes, exactly. That's usually been the book, right? Biden's been wrong on everything. So Trump's like, Joe, what would you do? And then as soon as Joe tells us,
like,
all right, everybody, we know what to do now. Like I said, New York Post reporter Diana Glebova will be joining us at 7:05 talk about that meeting. It's 6:23.
Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 6:37. Happy Thursday to one and all. Thanks for tuning in here to O'Connor and Company. Coming up at 7:05, Diana Glebova, New York Post, about that exclusive she had with Donald Trump about their meeting, the meeting between Trump and Biden yesterday. 7:35, Andy Pullen of ESPN 630 to preview tonight's Commanders game in Philly. 8:05, KT McFarland, and then at 8:35, Susan Crabtree. Real Clear Politics, some news about the Secret Service that she's got, because that's what she does. It's Larry O'Connor with Patrice Onwuka. Good morning, Patrice.
Good morning, Larry, and everybody listening.
Have you been offered a job yet in the new administration?
I have not. I'll let you know if
Department
it happens.
Department of Labor, Department of Treasury, Department. I'd love to see you at Labor, sort of making sure that
would be fun.
That independent contractors are not infringed upon by this administration, like the
very
last
critical issue for me. Yes,
just floating it out there, everyone. Lots of positions to fill. Joining us right now is Tumay Harding. She would like to fill a position as well. She would like to be the brand new state senator out in Loudoun County, Virginia, in the 32nd District, which is now vacated because of the congressional election that just occurred. Tumay Harding, always good to talk with you. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Larry and Patrice. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, when last we spoke, you were running for county supervisor in Loudoun County, and of course, a major part of your issue and agenda and your campaign had to do with holding those schools accountable because of your own personal experience with your children in the schools. Tell me, first of all, what you learned about the district and about, that run that you'll now apply to this campaign.
Oh, wow. It was such an amazing ride and honor to be able to run for Ashburn supervisor. I learned so much. I went into it with my whole heart and being, with a fire in my belly, and I tackled everything that I could. And looking back, I have no regrets. We ran a great campaign, and we did really well for that blue district. We won 44% of the votes, which I'm super proud of. My team is amazing and strong. Yeah. And now I'm taking that experience and I'm going deep. I'm going to Richmond.
You call Ashburn a blue district. How does it differ to the 32nd State Senate district?
It's also a difficult district, not going to lie. But we really have a good chance right now. We have the fire in our bellies with our Trump win. We have, amazing volunteers who are ready to help. And we're not giving up. This is a revival. We're working towards, just improvement. And I think people's eyes are opening to the facts, no matter what party they're from.
So Tumay, what's the top issue that you think is going to motivate it or should motivate Republicans, voters to come out and support you? I mean, I think I've seen a quote where you talk about education, but what about some of those other kitchen table issues?
Honestly, the most important thing that I want to accomplish right now in Richmond, when I win that seat, is stopping the Democrats from amending the Virginia Constitution to allow abortion till birth. Yeah, I mean, I feel like most Virginians are opposed to late-term abortion, and when I win the seat, I can stop or at least delay that effort. It affects everybody.
We're speaking with Tumay Harding, and while we're at it, we should probably sort of dive into the process here, Tumay, if you don't mind, because the Loudoun County Republican Committee has set up what's called a firehouse primary, right? Specifically for this Saturday. The clock is started on this thing very quickly because it's a special replacement election. So if you want people to come out and vote for you, what should they do this Saturday?
This Saturday, it's just such a critical election. They can come out to Cascades Overlook Event Center, and that's across from the Nova campus on Route 7 in Sterling, or Guidepost Montessori of Aldie, and that's near Route 50 in Aldie, Virginia. Please come out and vote. Vote for Tumay Harding. I am the only Republican candidate who can win in the general election. I have broad support. I've received endorsements from Sheriff Mike Chapman, Senator Dick Black, and Delegates Bob Marshall and Gary Higgins. In fact, most of the Loudoun leaders are behind me, and you can find out more about that on tumayforva.com. That's TUMAYFORVA.com. Just come out and vote. It's so critical. I need to win this primary so that we can win this general election, and we have a shot.
Yeah. This is a critical.
We really have a shot.
This is a critical seat. Yeah. If the Republicans can win this seat, that would bring the balance of power in the Senate to even. It would be 20-20 Democrats, Republicans, and of course, Winsome Sears, being the lieutenant governor, cast a tie-breaking vote. So this could be a major step forward to allowing Glenn Youngkin, the governor, to be able to sort of finish up in his final year and continue his agenda to help the Commonwealth. So it's a very big deal in this seat. Yeah, and it should also be pointed out that one of the, you look at the Democrats who are vying for the nomination on that side, and one name sticks out. That would be Buddha Biberai, the former Commonwealth's attorney who was Soros funded and, did everything that she could, in my opinion, to make Loudoun County much less safe than it was before she got voted out. She got rejected by the voters of Loudoun County, and that's increasingly a blue Democrat county. And even they said no, enough is enough with Buddha Biberai. So this is incredibly important to Tumay Harding. So good luck in the primary, and should you prevail, we'll look forward to having you on. We would love to see this district flip to Republican hands.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. And please, everybody, come out and vote for me on Saturday. It's so important. Make time for it, because this election depends on Virginia's future, and especially Loudoun's future.
Well, Patrice, I have very, very sad news for you.
Okay. What is that?
Don Lemon. You remember Don Lemon, don't you?
How can I forget? He called women in their 50s not in their prime.
Sorry. Nikki Haley isn't in her prime. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the
Kamala
beginning
Harris
of the
wouldn't
end
be in
for
her
him.
prime either.
No. Don Lemon announced yesterday that he is quitting the X social media platform. Now, you'll remember that
was he even there?
Well, sure. He wanted to launch his own show like Tucker Carlson. Elon Musk welcomed him with open arms, sat down for an interview with him, and said, yeah, we're not doing this. He was awful to Elon. Don Lemon now has decided, this is really funny. Talk about a drama queen moment here from Don Lemon. He announced on Twitter he was leaving. Then he typed out a letter on his stationery and posted the picture of his letter explaining why he's leaving. Then he posted a video of himself explaining why he's leaving. It says, just go, dude. Just go. But here's why he's leaving.
Hi, everyone. Hi. I have loved connecting with all of you on Twitter and then on X for all of these years.
Yes.
But it's time for me to leave the platform.
Okay.
I once believed that it was a place for honest debate and discussion, transparency and free speech.
Yeah, Don Lemon's all about honest, balanced debate and discussion. Just look at his track record of his primetime television show. Yeah, all right. But now, of course, it's not here.
But I now feel it does not serve that purpose. In addition, starting this Friday, November 15th, X is implementing new terms of service, which, among other things, states that, quote, all disputes be brought exclusively in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Texas or state courts located in Tarrant County, Texas, end quote. The full terms of service can be found on my written statement or on the X website. Now, as the Washington Post recently reported on X's decision to change the terms, this, quote, ensures that such lawsuits will be heard in courthouses that are a hub for conservatives, which experts say could make it easier for X to shield itself from litigation.
There you go. The Washington Post told me that by changing the venue for disputes to these Texas courts, it's going to make it harder for, or it's going to make it easier for conservatives to win in court, including Elon Musk at X. So don't you love this? Don't you love this?
Here are two things I love, Larry. Number one, his statement wasn't just off the cuff. He literally read the statement on his letterhead, which, by the way, has a picture of his face holding a microphone in your face. He is such a prima donna. But number two, where is the headquarters of X.com, formerly known as Twitter?
It's Texas.
Thank you.
Yes.
So when you're bringing a lawsuit, You don't just randomly choose a court to sue in. You have to choose in your district. And so Texas is where they're going to bring lawsuits because X.com is in Texas.
That's right.
I wish the journalist in him, if there was any, actually put two and two together and just did a quick Google search to think about that.
And while we're at it, why don't you examine how the charges came down in the District of Columbia and in Manhattan against Donald Trump? Take a look at those judges, take a look at those courts, and take a look at those grand jury pools, and maybe you'll put two and two together. Hey, Don, sorry, dude, it's called the 10th Amendment, and it can sting like a son of a gun. It's 6:52.